Welcome to the July 19th, 2023 meeting of the Lyman Planning Board. This meeting will come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes on an executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and look at all the exhibits that are offered. If the board votes to an executive session, the reason for the same shall be stated. Please notify the board chair if you have a difficulty seeing or hearing. This meeting is being recorded for YouTube. Need assistance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinance or ordinances. After the board votes on the merits of each After the board votes on the merits of each project, it will prepare a written opinion, which will be forwarded within 7 days. The board works for a prepared agenda and will be considering tonight's items in the following order. Roll call, review planning board mission statement and bylaws, elect planning board officers for year 2024, report results to select board, Bartlett Pines subdivision, phase 3, Barker's Pond Rentals, review what is needed to permit the business, his song Ready Mix and Aggregates, 98 Old Kennebunk Road, review minutes of 6/21/23, review minutes of 7/12/23. All right, we'll have a roll call.
Kelly Demers, 10 Partridge Way.
Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road.
Don Hernan, 33 Murphy's Way.
Ron T2, 357 Walker Road.
Cecile Dupuy, 53 Chapel Shores Road.
Kevin Bear, 64 Bugging Pond Road.
Bill Single, 8 Single Lane.
Okay, Don, you want to go over the?
Can I make a suggestion that
Go
we
ahead.
hold off the mission statement, bylaws, and the election until after the business? Because
Okay, we
I
can
got
do
some
that.
comments on the bylaws I'd like to make, but I don't want to take everyone's time that's here now for that. I mean, it's administrative in nature,
Mhm.
some of which is brilliant, but not all. So I would suggest maybe if we could sort of put that off and take care of the business first, if that's okay
Okay.
with you.
Second motion. If you're moving it, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll start with his song Ready Mix. Okay, we just went on a site walk. Is there anything the board wants to discuss about the site walk?
No, straightforward.
Are we ready for a public hearing then?
I believe so.
Schedule a public hearing?
Yeah, we want to do that.
See, it's a 20-day
20 days.
timeframe.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And our first scheduled meeting for next month would be,
August 2nd,
I can make that. How about the 16th?
August 16th.
Is that a Wednesday?
Yep.
That is a Wednesday.
Yep, second Wednesday.
6 o'clock for public hearing? And we'll schedule to be on a meeting after?
Perfect.
And that's all we need tonight.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you.
Get out of the way.
Okay, Bartlett Pine subdivision. Go ahead, Brenda.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say that town's attorney is here this evening?
Yep.
Are you asking me personally?
And we'll let him speak first.
If you would.
He's speaking about Bartlett Pine subdivision.
Hello, everyone. Brad Moran. Brenda had reached out to me. I understand there's not really any sort of application or anything formal in front of the planning board right now. It was just a bunch of questions being raised about the subdivision. Is that the case?
That's correct.
All right. Okay. So she supplied me with some materials, and I did a little bit of research on my own on the Registry of Deeds, and I can summarize what I saw. It looked like in 1999, the planning board of both towns approved the subdivision as phase 1, lots 1 through 4. 2001, phase 2 was approved, adding lots 5 and 6. 2006, phase 3 is approved. That's basically, from what I can tell, looks like a re-subdivision of lot 6, basically converting lot 6 into 3 lots, 6A, B, C, so for a total of 8 lots now. Number of conditions attached to that approval of phase 3. In 2009, the owner records certificates of abandonment only of phase 3 for the subdivision. Those were signed and recorded by both Waterboro and Lyman. I found Waterboro's after we spoke. Brenda and I looked at those. There's some issues a little bit with those certificates in terms of the clarity of what the town might have intended, the status of lot 6, what was supposed to be the status of the former lot 6 that was part of phase 1 and phase 2, was supposed to be re-subdivided. And then when they abandoned the re-subdivision of lot 6, what was the status of lot 6, right? So it wasn't exactly clear. Plus, there was a reference to some improvements that were did not have to be done, and they were described on Exhibit A, and that Exhibit A was not recorded with certificate either. So it wasn't. Both of the certificates were done separately by Waterboro and Lyman, although technically it was supposed to be a statute. It was supposed to be a joint meeting unless waived in writing. We don't have. This is so long ago. We don't have a lot of these records to try to recreate what happened. But Waterboro's had some issues with it too, because it referenced vacating streets, which I didn't really think was really the intent in that document. And then Lyman's had an issue with that Exhibit A that wasn't attached to it. So none of them really said what should happen with lot 6. After that, 2015, there's a conveyance of basically lot 6 is now split. We've got 6C, which was shown on phase 3, which is no longer phase 3, no longer happens. 6C is conveyed by the owner to a daughter. And then later on, there's a conveyance more recently. The most recent one was, I believe, 6A. To a Mr. Blair. Sorry, I knew I forgot to write down one of the things. But there was another conveyance more recently. I can tell from the documents that what everyone was intending was that they were basically believing that what was formerly 6A, B, and C was basically, they believed that it had been treated like it was just no longer part of the subdivision altogether, and it could be divided as any vacant piece of land would be. So the conveyance to the daughter doesn't count because it was a conveyance to a relative. The next conveyance to the other person is okay because that creates only 2 divisions. Certainly enough time had passed. So if this was just one chunk of land that had never been part of a subdivision, I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. But I could tell that they were trying to fit it into the exemptions because Red Door Title, who was doing the title work at the time, had recorded an affidavit basically clarifying that this first conveyance went to a child. So what does this leave you with, from what I can tell? If I was doing title work on it, I might have some concerns, all right, only because of the way those certificates were recorded. The certificates are a fine way to abandon a subdivision. You can do it that way. You can record a plan that shows it being abandoned, or you can record this sort of certificate showing that it's been abandoned. Sometimes they recommend language saying what the status of that land is, like it reverts to its status before it went through subdivision approval. My concern was that it didn't really say what happened with it. We had, if it looked like this, you had this part down here in Lyman that was, A, B, C. Yeah. And before it was just lot 6. When this went away with the abandonment of phase 3, this was always part of a subdivision. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I don't know what the board's intended back then. They might have intended, hey, if this goes back to the way it looked on the phase 1 and phase 2 plans, this big chunk of lot 6 was always part of the subdivision. And that means you can't go dividing it really to anyone, no matter how much time passes, unless you come back for a revision. So that might have been the board's intent at the time, because you had all these other lots sharing a private road and things like that, so they might have intended that it just go back the way it was, which was as phase 1 and phase 2. If that's the case, then any sort of conveyance of any type, no matter if it's to a child or if it's 5 years, you'd always have to come back to the board for that, because it's a lot on an approved plan. If I was reviewing title, I might take that position, or at least want clarity from the town, just out of caution, an abundance of caution. The other scenario is if everyone intended really to take this out altogether, is then it just becomes another piece of land. You can, make one conveyance every 5 years, or if you want to do some exempt conveyances to a child, you can do that. You just have to, meet the definition of a subdivision. That's really, I think, what people, at least the people out there, were trying to do, because they, in each of the deeds, they included conditions, recreating rights of way, making them subject to some of the provisions that applied to the rest of the subdivision. I think the owners were basically believing that it was not part of the subdivision anymore, that basically that big lot sets have been taken out. I do think, I think it's not really clear what happened. Of course, a lot of years have gone by, people have bought property in reliance on this. So, it's basically divided into the 3 lots that were supposed to be part of phase 3 back then. It's basically that division has occurred now. So it's kind of already been done. I personally think it should be cleared up in the registry of deeds one way or the other. Otherwise, you might get questions about it going forward. I believe each of the lots that I've bought have conditions in there, making them subject to some of the declarations and covenants that applied to lots phases 1 and 2 already. I would think that maybe the owners might want to consider doing either a new plan, saying what the status is of that former lot 6, or a new certificate, also maybe clarifying that these improvements that were on there did not need to be constructed. There were things like fire cisterns and things like that were on the phase 3 that was then abandoned. So that was, again, I believe it probably was intended to abandon all those improvements, but that exhibit A was missing. And one way or another, you could, I would think that they might want to get that cleared up in terms of what happened with that lot 6.
So what should the planning board do?
Well, this is kind of different. There's not, if it's an enforcement matter, that's on her.
Right.
I was asked to come to, I think she wanted to bring it to you.
Yeah.
I think because it had been raised, I think maybe the owners are here too and talk about it. If it's going to end up coming back to you for some sort of clarity or to record something, then it's going to have to come back to you anyway. I've run into this on the opposite side where I've been working on a transaction where I've run into some odd attempts to comply with subdivision statute, and like my title insurance underwriter has basically said, we're not comfortable with that. We want the planning board to give us something in writing, a letter or something like that. So I've had to send people to come back to a planning board, whether it's an amendment to a plan or something that they can record, saying, that this is okay. So for one example, could be, yes, basically we believe probably the intent was to remove lot 6 from subdivision altogether. It was supposed to be treated like any other lot. if that's the case, then that could be noted somewhere, the conveyances that occurred, certainly, the conveyances that occurred, if you hadn't recorded the lot 6 to begin with, everyone would probably say they were okay because one person went with the daughter and then the other one later on. So that's one thing that could be done.
So
Is it
Brad,
new?
where does that leave the first subdivision and the second, or the first part and the second part with mortgages, that there was gonna be fire protection there and now there's not?
Well, all those lots, as far as I can tell, those lots are all approved before phase 3 went in. You know what I'm saying?
That was
I don't
one
know
year.
if there was, go ahead.
That was 1 year.
Yep.
And those houses weren't all completed in 2005.
Okay.
So part of the condition of mortgages of phase 2 was that there was to be a cistern in there.
Phase
Which,
3, wasn't
phase 2.
Okay.
Phase 3 was solely lot 6 of phase 2. Lot 2 of phase 2, now on phase 3, consisted of 3 lots. And those 3 lots, I believe, the borders are still on the original phase 3 subdivision plan.
If phase 2 required a cistern, I'm sure that still remains in effect.
That system was placed in there for phase 3, which was actually accepted, looks like May 3rd, 2006, while phase 2 was accepted August 23rd, 2005.
Yep, I see that. I see phase 3. And is there a cistern on lot 6 for phase 3, for phase 2?
Not on phase 2.
Okay. Yeah, I thought, I'm pretty sure there's one on phase 3.
Yeah.
So your question is, if people bought lots after the approval of phase 3, but before its abandonment,
In 2009, whenever that
Yeah.
took place, correct.
could there be? It could be. I mean, the problem we have is I don't know what the town agreed to. I don't know what time Lyman at least agreed to eliminate. One argument is to say they agreed to eliminate pretty much anything that was shown on phase 3, which would be the cistern. The town of the certificate signed by Waterboro didn't have that same language anyway. So I think that was another problem. Is probably there should have been a joint meeting back then. We could throw stones at your predecessors from 14 years ago.
There was a joint meeting.
There was, okay.
There was a joint meeting
Yeah.
that filed independently. Lyman eliminated all of the requirements.
Yeah.
Waterboro did not.
Oh, interesting. Because of lot 6 being located entirely within Lyman. Lyman.
Lyman, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
But we did have a joint meeting. Everybody was here.
All right. I just noticed the dates were different. So and the document was
They
different.
filed different. They filed independent.
Well,
And to go back to Bill's point, how does the non-installation of the cistern affect the value and mortgages of the homeowners on that land?
The only thing is lots 1 through basically lots 1 through 5 were approved without any cisterns whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it only got added for phase 3, and then phase 3 just got taken off the table. So I guess that's the argument the homeowner would make, or the owner would make is, I believe, unfortunately, we don't have the exhibit, but I believe probably the town of Lyman probably took away everything that was required under phase 3. When they basically said it was abandoned.
I'm just wondering what's going to happen to their homeowners insurance. If someone does a study and goes, wait a minute, you don't have emergency water supply within 500 feet. Now, the municipality is gonna have to pump it from a little pond over by town line.
They never had it, basically.
But mortgages were written with the stipulation that that system was installed.
I'd have to go back and look at the other places to see if anyone had mortgages written in reliance on phase 3.
Hmm.
I
don't.
Okay.
But is that the planning board's problem?
No, it,
I mean, I think we ought to concentrate on what
having
the
spoken
planning board
with
has.
3 code enforcement officers during the course of business this past 2 weeks, one of the questions I posed to them was if the stipulations of a subdivision weren't met, could it be abandoned once the majority was, and they were like, no, it's gotta be completed.
I mean, my concern is this thing was signed and recorded 14 years ago. And one position you could take is lot 6 is still was still part of that subdivision, wasn't really supposed to be divided again without coming back to us. And then you could, have a conversation about what that should look like.
But didn't you say that the divisions have been,
Divisions have been made, yeah, they've been made, people have bought, one of the properties, I know did a closing with another title company that I know of. Probably, I think they were trying to show that the first one that went to the daughter, satisfied the subdivision statute.
okay.
I mean, we're faced with a fait accompli. I mean, it's already done, right?
Yeah, it's
And
already
that
done.
the cistern's not installed. The cistern's in Lyman, potentially. It was supposed to be in Lyman, was never installed. So, I mean, unless the town wants to try to, which I don't think we do, want to force a cistern to be installed, I mean, who would pay for it? The town's not gonna pay for it.
Well, I don't know, I gotta think this came up in 2009.
Yeah.
It had to have been. There's no way it didn't come up.
We
There's
just don't
no
have
way,
good- I
there's
guess
no
we
way
don't.
that there wasn't a discussion
Yeah.
about something like that.
But we don't have good records of that, apparently. Apparently, we
Well,
don't.
Brenda says we don't have.
So,
We don't have that from 2009. Yes.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
John.
Did we contact the respective fire chiefs, Matt Rose, Matt Bors, and in their professional opinion, how they come down in terms of necessity, if at all, for the fire system, for the
That
system?
will be done this evening. And he said he would want a water source.
A cistern or maybe a pond?
I know.
No,
Our fire chief does not do anything to systems.
I'm sorry, what did you say, please?
Our fire chief and fire marshal back and do not request systems.
That's why the town of Waterboro 2018 instituted the sprinkler restriction, because they're cumbersome for the town to maintain,
Yeah.
and they have ownership after the subdivision's complete. To maintain the cistern and
We went to
replace
system.
if necessary.
We also
I'm
went to
sorry.
sprinkler system for the same thing. But what does he feel about the lag time? What would happen theoretically? No system, everything is getting written off, phase 3 is over and done with. God forbid there's a fire in someone's house. Lead time from the fire department being sent out to when they can get there, they can start pumping water going down to town line. And the house is total loss because of that time, when if they would have had 20,000 gallons available in 5 minutes versus 20-minute trip.
There is a water source within 1 minute to 1.5 minutes of all 3 locations. That is there 24/7, 365.
Where's that?
Bartlett
Or the
Pond.
pond?
Bartlett Pond. It's right down the road. It's approachable. The road is improved to the point where you can drive a tank. I built it myself.
Sorry to digress, but Brenda was answering the question about the fire chiefs.
Right. Our fire chief did say that he would be looking for some kind of a water source out there. There is, on this plan, there's specifications for fire pond, even the grading, typical dry hydrant detail. I believe that's on the corner of Deering Ridge. And is that anything? That's there now?
Which one's it? That's the first one. The first one.
During,
There's no, we're all residents, there's no
no fun.
So it's phase one and phase two, whatever's on there is still in effect for it, those weren't changed as far as we can tell. So, I answer your question earlier, yeah, I mean, any safety thing is a major concern. The question I think, like Dawn asked is, do we have jurisdiction over this? Is there something really in front of us? Yeah.
Yeah, and if we write it off and something happens, does liability fall back on the town of Lyman because we said we're washing our hands of it? When we possibly had the responsibility to see that the stipulations in the subdivision were met. Now, if they were met before it was abandoned, fine, great, wonderful. I'm looking out for the residents, the homeowners.
Well, certainly anything that's in 1 and 2 is still in play and still,
All right,
required.
you said 1 and 2.
Mhm.
2 is lot 6, which is also phase 3.
Yeah, well, that's what comes down to that question, and I can't. That's why I think some people are gonna have some issues. They might be coming back to you because in a perfect world, that certificate of abandonment would have said something like lot 6 lot 6 is no longer part of the subdivision, or lot 6 reverts to its status as it was in lot 2. I didn't see what those were, and Brenda and I had a conversation with us for like 45 minutes today. Like, well, what is lot 6? Is it still part of the subdivision? I think everyone treated it like it was basically taken out. And I think maybe even the town might have believed that back in 2009. If it's taken out, then you're back to, all right, I can make a division once every 3 years without planning board review, or I can do an exemption, an exempt transaction without planning board review. If it wasn't taken out, then basically you can't even do anything with it without coming back for planning board review, and you review, what do I need to change? So, and I don't know the answer to that.
Phase 3, in and of itself, was a 3-unit subdivision.
It was, yep, it was a re-subdivision of lot 6.
Yep.
Yep, it was a,
Come to the planning.
matter of fact, I think the certificates of abandonment referred to the 3-lot subdivision of
That
You know.
was exhibit A, which they said the stipulations have been made to the board.
yeah, it could have been referring to exhibit A, meaning are you saying
Which is
that,
the plan, that's exactly.
the plan was- okay.
References Bartlett Pines Phase 3, that is exhibit A from the
Okay.
224. And we've abandoned all of those stipulations in exhibit A, which is Bartlett Pines Phase 3.
Yeah. if that's the case, then that is.
Which is any of the improvements, anything that was set forth in Phase 3, the chairman of the planning board
Well,
in 2009 signed off on it.
it says the notice of abandonment is attached here too as exhibit A. Yeah, I mean, it's not a model of clarity. It says the notice of abandonment is attached here too as exhibit A. And then it goes on to say all the improvements on exhibit A. I mean, I don't disagree with you or not believe you that probably exhibit A was intended to be the entire plan,
Well, that's what it says in paragraph 1. The 3-lot subdivision referred to as exhibit A, Savannah, what does it say here? Savannah Lane and Midway Lane, which was never came to fruition. Bartlett Pines Phase 3, that's what he's referencing as exhibit A.
Yeah, but then I also see a notice of abandonment as exhibit A, I mean, I don't think that's the thing to die, I don't think that's the major issue. In my opinion, I think, the other issue is what happened with, which one are you looking at? Can I see that one?
This is the one that came from one.
September 3rd, 09. Rod Stewart, signed it.
We have a coffee stand. Said notice of abandonment.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm looking at the same thing with the recorded one. Said notice of abandonment attached to.
You're right by the residence.
But then doesn't it go on to say that, keep on going, it says subdivision was known as Bartlett Pines, phase 3, said notice.
Yeah, period. Said notice of abandonment is attached here to exhibit A. I mean, it's just, it's not super clear.
It's not clear.
And I guess the bigger issue maybe was, well, what was lot 6 supposed to be?
And we got John.
I think
who'd like to
you-
speak.
Yeah, oh, sorry about that.
Mr. Moores is on the phone currently, so that we can hear it, so that he can speak for himself regarding the fire protection
Okay.
from the Waterboro side, if that's.
Sure,
Awesome.
great.
DJ.
I'm not sure what we can do.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Go ahead, Don.
Hi, who is this, please?
Not close.
This is Matt.
At Wars.
Fire.
This is the Lyman Planning Board. We're just wondering what your opinion was for the necessity of a cistern or other water source up there in the Bartlett Pines subdivision.
Well, I do know that I believe this Hollis has a cistern installed in a subdivision they have up Deering Ridge Road. But for any of the houses, I would say that they should be sprinkled. This is our position on subdivisions now.
Yeah, but these are already existing homes, so, I mean, that's not something that's retroactive, I don't believe, is it, in Waterboro?
So what exactly is your question? Do we need to have fire suppression as far as the pond?
No, the question was, the Phase 3 subdivision plan showed a cistern to be installed. It was never installed. So the question the Lyman Planning Board was asking was, well, should this be, is it necessary to install this or not? And the question that some of the members were asking, well, what is the opinion of the fire chief from Waterboro and also of the fire chief from Lyman, since three lots are in Lyman, but there, I guess, 5 lots are in Waterboro. So it's a split subdivision. That makes it a little more confusing, of course.
Well, I guess if it was in the plan to be initially installed, and that was continued before, then a cistern probably would be appropriate as the only means of fire suppression or for water for that area, if they're not already sprinkled, and which that doesn't sound like those houses, since they're already constructed, were not sprinkled.
No, the houses, to my knowledge, are not sprinkled. So,
So the short answer would be that I would say that they should have as originally planned, the fire suppression system.
yeah, the only issue is that came in Phase 3, and Phase 3 was abandoned here a few years ago. So it puts it into sort of a pickle. The houses are already constructed. The cistern is not constructed. And I don't know who wants to pay for the cistern. Maybe Lee, you had a question?
Well, yeah, I mean, Matt, I think part of the issue is whether or not, at this time, do you see a need for those properties in Waterboro to have a fire suppression system where they were given permits without any kind of fire suppression system back when they were permitted to be built? Or are you feeling like if the cistern that's required in Lyman should be put in order to serve the Waterboro properties in that subdivision?
I think if there's another means of water that would be put in the Lyman, if we did have an event, we could utilize that.
But in the meantime, you are also saying that there is a source in Hollis that you can attack fires up in that area from that?
Yeah, well, I can't remember the name of that subdivision, but it's up from, if you go up Jerry River, it's on the right-hand side. The Lyman guys may know what it's called, but it's on the, if you're familiar with it, but it is a cistern there. But then we also have on the other side, there's a pond, a small pond, just further down, on the opposite side of the road.
Right, and you can use those for the Waterboro homes in this area?
Those would be alternates.
Okay.
Does that pond have a hydrant, Matt? You know?
Yeah,
Does that pond have a hydrant, like a dry hydrant?
That pond does not have a dry hydrant, the one I'm talking to, that, and it's not, what's his name?
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I'm drawing a blank on the road name, to be honest with you, but it's.
Yeah.
But it's on the other side, there's another subdivision that.
It's on Cortland Lane,
There's a pond up there.
Cortland Lane?
Cortland.
Cortland Lane.
Yeah, that might be, it's
And then
where,
there's
where a bunch of
Panoramic
members
has
of
the
the
fire
Angel.
pond,
Yeah, where, okay.
so we're going
Okay.
with.
All right. You folks all set?
Any questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much.
No problem, thank you.
Okay.
Where are we now?
Okay.
I don't know where we are.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Mr. Chairman, what I'm looking for in my world is that there is plan recorded of what is out there. I think it's important that people that are doing research and all of these standalone documents, making statements here, there, and the other place, there should be a final plan that reflects what's out there. That's what I'd like to see the planning board do.
Who would prepare that plan, though? Who would pay for it?
I don't know.
Because would that require a new survey? Not necessarily, just research probably.
I don't think it would require a new survey.
Because then we got all the data here.
Well, my concern is, Richard Blair, this came at the last meeting we had. I wasn't aware of what abandonment meant. I purchased a home on Lot 6 in 2018. And I believe for that 5 years, I was a member of the Bartlett Pines Association. It wasn't until about a month ago that I was told that I wasn't, that I was made aware that I might not be a part of that subdivision. So that was kind of confusing. I would have thought that would have come out when I purchased my home, that I would have made aware of it. I know in my title, it said that I had access to those roads to leave back and forth because it's the only way in and out. So that's where a question comes for me is not being aware of any of this having taken place. And it's also odd too, because last September they elected me president of the Bartlett Pines Homeowners Association, and I'm obviously not a member of that homeowners association. So, and I've been paying my dues ever since I've been here for 5 years. So that's where I think it gets a little confusing too. I thought I'd throw that in
It's
there.
kind of odd to be using a road in a subdivision.
I'm sorry.
It's kind of odd to use a road in a subdivision if you're not part of the subdivision.
Well, and it's actually in my title, it says I have
Gives you
access. Yes,
Right.
yes. So, but the whole confusion about what, and I'm not sure if, Frank, are you talking about the road on my property that goes down to the pond? Okay. Well, that would have to be something that, the road that he was talking about for a water source, I would suggest the fire department check that out first, because of access. That's on my property.
Yeah, but
So-
they have to be accessed 24/7, 365.
So that wouldn't be available. The-
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fire pond up the street, I mean, that's even closer, to be honest with you.
I got one question to the residents and the owners. Have you thought about unabandoning the subdivision and just take it back in?
The only difficulty with that is that I've already been granted a homestead lot for my daughter. I own the remaining lot, which is between Richard and my daughter's house right now. It's actually going to be deeded to my other daughter, who is coming back to go to medical school. I'm building a house for my father and for my daughter on that piece of property. So, I mean, I've been paying dues ever since I was there.
Yep.
Even after I abandoned it in 2009. And the reason why I abandoned it in 2009, because they wanted almost $200,000 to construct the road to make that into a 3-lot subdivision. It had to have 6-foot wide sidewalks, it had to have underground utilities, it had to have
Now, who was they?
the towns,
Your town of Lyman,
the town of Lyman.
to comply with the subdivision regulations.
We require town rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Underground
that's the
utilities.
reason why the onus was that's right. I mean, it wasn't worth $200,000 to improve the road to be better than any road in the town of Lyman.
Maybe not.
Oh, well, okay, some of them very nice. And to put in recent estimate, my excavator is there right now digging the cellar hole. And he says it's between $200,000 and $300,000 to put in a fire cistern.
Wow. A lot of money for a hole in the ground.
Exactly. So, like I said at the last meeting, my family lives there. If a fire cistern needs to be put in, I'll pay my share, but that's a huge burden for the rest of the people in the subdivision. I'm sure they don't want to spend that kind of money for something that if you talk to most fire folks, one of my best friends is a lieutenant on the Freeport Fire Department. He says they hate fire systems with a passion because they don't know if they're going to work. They don't know if they're going to be filled with algae and everything else. They have to go through all these series of tests on it. So, I mean, I'm trying to construct a house for my family. It's going into an irrevocable trust that is never going to be sold. Those two pieces of property are going to sit in the trust forever. And I have no problems paying association dues. I've been doing that all along.
I don't want to be crass about this, but how do we terminate this thing? I mean, we're talking about it. I don't know that,
what needs to come to an end and
yeah.
what we're gonna do.
For Brenda's perspective, some modification of this, would that suffice in terms of,
I think that's important.
okay,
I also have the question, who maintains Midway Lane?
Richard, myself, we take care of it ourselves. I take care of it from my daughters all the way
Right,
down
right.
to Richard's property, and he takes care of it the rest of the way.
and as for fire safety, would the installation of a dry hydrant down at the pond and having the, both chiefs take a look at the access road toward it and suggest improvements if necessary, might that suffice in terms of fire safety for the neighborhood?
Who
No.
would pay for the improvements to that road?
Good question.
And plowing,
We pay for plowing as it is right
but down to
now.
the pond though, we would plow with it.
That would be a tough go going down there as a cross.
I know that Wabber or Lyman would want to put a fire truck down that road. to
No,
every pond.
absolutely.
Okay.
Especially if there's a fire cistern or a hydrant coming up the Bartlett Pond or Jerry Ridge, right there. I mean, they're on their way there anyway, that's the only way to get there.
So Brenda, you'd like to see an updated map of what's in there.
If that's how you choose to go.
Mhm.
Well, but I don't see, I mean, right now we've got, phase 3 has been abandoned, right?
Yeah.
And that's been signed off by both planning boards, correct? So, and that shows lots A, B, and C on it. It does show the cistern.
Are the lots the same size as what's shown on this plan?
Exactly the same
They're
size.
exactly the
because when
same.
he abandoned it, he also had a bill of almost $5,000 to SGC. I went to SGC and paid that bill, and I said, I'll call the lots the exact same size, because you've already done the work. I'll just pay the bill to get the lien off the house when I sold it to you, which I had no idea was there.
And both of these sign-offs actually state that he doesn't have to comply with the subdivision. They both state that.
Yeah.
When something like this happens, these sign off, is anyone required to let the residents of the subdivision know that that's taking place?
First time I've ever seen this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in that, you all know better than I do because I'm the new boy. So, yeah, no one was ever notified that that took place.
Wow.
But normally we are very careful in terms of public hearings and such, notification of all the abutters. We certified mail notification to them as to what may be coming up that.
Is it treated like a revision or amendment to a subdivision? I believe when you abandon homes, it's treated like
What should we got now?
would require
Well, my opinion is, this is just my opinion, is that the way this is stated, that reverted back to a regular lot. The way
Well,
they, the way they wrote this out.
That's how they treated it, yeah.
And
They
that's,
treated it like it went back.
that's what I infer from this. But I'm not a lawyer and,
I think,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
that's-
surprise me if that was the intent, right? I think that was probably the intent. It didn't necessarily say that, at least not on both certificates.
well, it doesn't boldly say that, but it infers it when it says that revoke any dedications made by said subdivision plan.
Yeah, but that statute they cited was talking about roads.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
And at that time, in 2009, I was the sole owner of that entire piece. So there was no, other than the two lots that were immediately abutting it. I don't know if they were notified. Both of those folks have sold their lots, and there's new people in both of them since I abandoned.
I mean, I was on the planning board at that time, and I don't remember the meeting about abandoning this, so it couldn't have been that eventful.
No, it was literally, I mean, we've talked more now than we've ever talked about it back then.
Right.
It literally was a 2-minute, here you go, done.
Yeah, I don't know what the opinion of the rest of the board
I'm
is.
kind of casting about for some sort of resolution here. Again, Brenda, your point of view, would modification of this particular diagram in particular, showing the homes that Mr. Gaudreau is in the process of building here, would that be satisfactory in terms of your needs?
I think if there is no way to resolve the water source issue, then it should not be on that plan.
Okay.
I
And
mean, in a perfect world,
That plan doesn't exist. It's abandoned.
Is the whole plan abandoned?
It only says it on phase 3. Phase 3
Right.
is no longer existing.
Right,
So
that's
it's
what
a
it's-
non-issue.
it specifically states phase 3, outlines phase 3.
The plan.
Phase 3 doesn't exist anymore. It's been abandoned. So it's anything that references that as a non-issue at this point moving forward. It's lot 2, it's phase 2. That's where we live. That's where it ended, right? Whatever requirements were of phase 2 is the requirements that should exist today.
According to this, that's how I interpret it myself.
But according to your logic, abandoning phase 3 also abandons the pre-delineated lots from phase 3.
But then I paid for them to be redelineated by SGC.
Okay.
Which he can do in a legal way as
Yeah.
prescribed by the town lawyer.
That's right, you
And the
did
code
mention.
enforcement officer at that time, I asked him, do we need to go to planning board to do this? To re-outline those lots?
And they
She
said,
said, no.
Okay.
She said, we do not need to go to planning board. This is one house lot, and we're gonna homestead off the lots.
So if it's left the way it is now, those 3 lots, including mine, is that considered a subdivision?
No,
No.
because my main house, the 15 or so acres that you're on, that house was the starting point for the homestead of the subsequent 2 lots. That was my understanding, and that's, I mean, I'm not trying to be subversive, I'm not trying, this is,
Is it necessary for the Lyman Planning Board to write something that documents this? For the record? In other words, we've had a meeting, we've talked about it. Brad Moore's come and talked about it, everyone's talked about it, we're all talking about it. The fire chief from Waterboro says, I guess a cistern's not needed. If this were a new subdivision, you'd have to sprinkle the homes, but you don't have to right now, I guess. He doesn't have to. So, I mean, is there anything we should do to, okay, 5 years from now, this comes up again or something, they say, well, this guy's looked at it in whatever year that says 2023. What do they do? Well, I don't know. Went to some meeting and we wrote down minutes. But is there something we could do to document this, to maybe make this not go away, but to be recorded in York County and tied in with these plans to say it's done?
You could, I'll tell you what,
Sound like a broken record, but I got kind of a crackerjack title examiner who's been doing this for like forever. And she was hung up on when there was a certificate of abandonment, that you still had that big lot 6 of 30 something acres that was part of phase 1, phase 2. And she's kind of like, I would have a question of whether that could be split up again, like what Dr. Goodrow did. If it was removed from the subdivision altogether, which I think was probably the intent, that's why the code officer was telling him you don't need to go back to planning board, then that kind of eliminates that question altogether. I mean, if that's basically the planning board concludes that that was the intent, that's basically that whole big, it was a pretty big section, what was it, 30 acres? Yeah,
Yeah.
but that basically came out of Bartlett Pines, and then he divided it again and all that stuff in accordance with the subdivision statute. Then that would eliminate that question, at least, that people won't be coming back to you to ask those type of questions.
So Brad,
Yeah.
would you say to do an addendum to the certificate of abandonment
Certainly could.
that says phase 3 was totally eliminated?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could say, so, I mean, if I was, let's say I was representing Dr. Godrow and this thing was getting drafted up and I was drafting this thing up and asking the planning board to sign this thing, knowing what I know now, I probably would say lot 6 reverts to the status prior to any subdivision approvals, okay? Any further divisions must be in accordance with, 30A, whatever that statute is, okay? And it's not really subject, really doesn't become subject to review unless, it triggers this, 3 lots within the 5 years. Probably would have specified that and, basically say all the improvements required under phase 3 on the plan are not required.
Does that work for you, Brenda?
Because I'll hire her tonight to write that.
Not me.
No, wait a minute. Who's gonna write this? Well, we're not gonna write it. Oh, I don't know how to write it. I can write my name, but I'm not sure I can write this.
Council, your council.
Could we?
Again, it's abandoned. I mean, it's abandoned in both planning boards. I mean, if you want, I don't know what you're asking me to do, to ask somebody else to then look at those two things, reinvent them, put them together, and then resubmit them just to Lyman? Or, I mean, I'm not quite sure what but we can't go back in time.
Well, I think Bill was right. We should just write an addendum to this stating that it's no longer part of that subdivision.
If that's your conclusion, then that's, I mean, it's only going to benefit the 3 people who are living out there right now and future buyers.
Right.
Technically, there's nothing really in front of you right now.
No.
This would benefit those people. I guess it would save the town from having questions being raised all the time.
I think it gives the other homeowners clarity on where they stand.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
He did put deed covenants, though, that made them subject to or parts of. He put private deed covenants in his lots.
In Mackenzie's lot and the upcoming lot, I said that they would continue to, there's siding things and you have to have a porch and you have to have a garage. I said, yeah, all those things are absolutely fine.
He said you're still subject to all those things, and he recreated rights of ways, I think, which is probably because if they're not part of the subdivision, you got to recreate all those things and make them subject. So he did do that.
The attorney told me they have to have driveways, they have to be able to get to their house because this was one lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a right of way to get to your house, I have a right of way to get to Mackenzie's house, and the road goes to the third house.
Yeah. So those things, those things are all done. I like I said, that was when I looked at it. Brett and I talked a lot about the improvements part of it. My opinion was we abandoned lot 3, kind of those things went with it. But like I said, I did have a big question about that, whether that giant lot 6 could really be divided like it was. That would, if you did answer that question in the record, that was certainly.
That it was acceptable to be.
We basically just say that, we believe, we find that lot 6 was effectively removed from the subdivision, review, and that planning board did not require, and subsequent divisions did not require planning board review except as set forth in the law.
So if the planning board did an addendum to the certificate of abandonment and said that all conditions for subdivision number 3 are null and void, and the property reverts back to its original state, that resolves most of the issues except for the people that don't have a fire system.
You could probably just say lot 6 reverts reverted to its
So it's just a
state.
one-liner
Yeah, I
to
mean,
it.
you could say lot 6 reverted to its state prior to subdivision review. Lot 6 was the only one that had those improvements on it. That was under phase 3. So, but that would at least address that question once and for all, if that's what you all find and that's what you all agree.
Brad?
Yeah.
And that addendum, shouldn't they also include any conditions of approval that were noted on the previous plan? Because if the lots are still 6A, 6B, and 6C, regardless if they've been homesteaded or not, if they show up on plat, like on the last plat that was approved and signed, one of the conditions clearly says that lots 6B and 6C shall maintain the cistern and all the improvements. That needs to go away, or lots 6B and 6C, if it's shown that way.
Well, the lots were conveyed according to the phase 3 plan,
Correct.
which creates confusion because if you're conveyed according to the plan, someone might be able, your neighbor might be able to come in and say, hey, I have, these certain rights that can be enforced.
Right.
So, yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, just to help clear that up, part of the future title.
It wouldn't hurt. If you want me to draft it, I'll draft it. I was just joking when I said I wouldn't do it, but, yeah.
Would you, I mean, would you be able to draft something?
Yeah, I could draft it for the town, I was joking. Obviously, I can't represent.
Would that satisfy what you're thinking, Brent?
And Brad, would that be signed by both boards?
I think it should be. I think it should be only because the statute says, it says right in there that any amendment to a subdivision plan has to be joint meetings. Go ahead.
Unless the board chooses to waive their rights.
Unless they agree to waive it, yeah, I guess. And so I guess if
And it
they,
is a Lyman issue per se.
yeah,
So I mean, the board, I can't speak for them, the chairman's here, but I think they should go back and discuss that and probably send a letter to you folks indicating that they're waiving in the future.
you take care of it, yeah. And then we can reference that in the thing that gets signed by Lyman.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that satisfy them? I'm sorry, I didn't realize members of the Waterboro Planning Board are here.
There's 4 of us,
Oh,
our
thank you.
administrative assistant and our town planner.
Wow. You got us outnumbered almost.
And our code enforcement officer, yes.
Do you think that would satisfy the requirements of Waterboro also? If
Yeah,
Mr.
we would definitely like to take it back and have our own meeting, and then we will send a letter to you as to our decision as to opting out or our participation in this matter further.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
Great.
okay,
And this is why we were adamant about getting all you folks involved in this.
yeah. Anyway,
Full transparency, full disclosure.
do we need to take a vote on this or anything to wrap this thing up from our point of view? So we can get on to the next important item on the agenda,
I heard it's
whatever that
brilliant.
is? I'm sorry?
I heard it's brilliant.
No, it's not yet. We're not up to that yet. We're getting there.
It will be.
It may be possibility.
I would suggest you vote to have me draft an amendment, a certificate clarifying that lot 6 was removed from the subdivision review, and the conditions were removed as well, and then I'll do the work.
I move that we do what Brad said.
Second.
Any more discussion from the board? All in favor of doing what Brad said?
Aye.
There.
And just a quick thing, it doesn't really help right now, but our ordinance review committee is going through all of our subdivision and land use ordinances. And one thing I'll suggest to them, their meeting tomorrow, is to make sure that within our subdivision regulations, any changes to subdivisions, abutters are notified of that. So I know it doesn't help right now, but for the future.
Thank you very much for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
For your participation.
There'll be nobody left. Appreciate you being patient. There you go. There you
I just
go.
want this to be legal and not ready later on.
No, I don't blame you.
There'll be nobody left.
Like I said,
We
I have
can
questions
adjourn.
about it. Well, there's one guy.
Bartlett Pond, Marcus Pond Rentals.
For the home box. Really?
Review what is needed.
I think that there's two planning boards, let them down.
How you doing? Lawrence LaChance.
You a backup on rental?
Yes, I am.
All right.
So
Don't know why I'm here, but we'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out.
You running a campground?
Huh?
You run a campground?
We run cottages and parking to swim. Used to have a snack shack. It's been running for, well, in my family since 1966.
I'm sorry,
So I don't.
would you repeat that, please?
I said this, I don't have any idea why I'm here. I mean, we've been running the same thing since 1966.
I'm very sorry about it. I don't have your identity.
My name's Lawrence LaChance from Marcus Pond.
So you advertise this on Facebook and other
My wife
places?
just put it on there,
And
and that, someone must have perked up on that or whatever.
So what do you do?
We actually run it's a private beach. People pay to park. They go to swim. There's barbecue pits and picnic tables. Spend the day.
you have 10 sites,
Nope, no tent sites.
10 sites?
Nope.
Just cottages.
I have 2 cottages. The third one is for our family cottage, our own personal family cottage.
And are these, how big is the land they're on? I'm just curious, is it 3 cottages on one piece of land or is it?
Yes, yep. And that's all been
All
approved. Everything's
waterfront.
been,
All waterfront.
nope, I have waterfront. There's actually no cottage on the waterfront. I have just a vacant lot with some fire pits and picnic tables.
So the question, I guess, is, is it required for him to have a permit? It's a business, right?
Yeah, it's a
I
business.
mean, you're not doing this for free, are you?
No,
No, so you have your.
we've never needed a permit license or anything. It's been
Okay,
going
but
on
I
for
mean-
so many years. Yep. But hey, I'm willing to,
No,
we'll
that's
do
the
what we gotta
past.
do.
What I'm saying is, you're running a business that is in, I guess it's in a
Shoreline
residential,
zone.
shoreline zone or wherever it is.
Yep.
And if it's required to have a permit, then you gotta have a permit. I mean, we're not creating an issue for you. We're
Mhm.
just saying that, if it's a land use that's in that zone that's required to have a permit, then you should apply for a permit, I would think. Does that make sense to people or not? Am I
Yes.
missing a point here?
No, you're not.
And should it be a state campground permit license?
We have regular lodging rentals. It's been always been licensed by the state.
Okay.
But no, nothing from the town up to this point?
We've never been notified, like I said, it's been in my family for
Oh, okay, I mean, I'm not questioning
till
that.
1966, and it was running as the same thing it's been running now since 1931.
And you said there was a snack shack there.
There
but
used to be, and we closed
discontinued.
it down probably 20 years ago. My parents did.
So
So
that's not an issue.
we can ask Brenda, now this would come under, what do you think?
You must have had building permits for those cottages.
Yes, yep.
You have-
Oh, you got-
Do you know what
okay.
the dates, when those were?
I can't remember the last time. The cottages were well, they're older than I am, I know that. So they were there, the 2 cottages were there prior to 1966. And there was a third one there, was like a canteen type cottage, which we tore down and, do you have that date? Okay, I think it was 2000. somewhere around 15, 16, which I removed that, got permits for, and put up a small camp there. And they said I could, at that time, I could actually build another cottage down front on the piece of property that I do have down front, waterfront.
And
It's
all
two-
of these are more than 75 feet from the water.
Correct.
All of these cottages are more than
Yes,
75
yep.
feet.
So are we concerned about the cottages or because these,
The town
Business operation.
has no say in what we call the Airbnb. We have,
right,
I'd really like to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But because we don't, at this point, I don't have any overview of that. And I thought I had there's a lot going out there, out there according to Facebook. I mean, there's a wedding venue, there's Parks and Rec groups coming in to use the lake. And I mean, I just told property owner in Kennebunk Pond that he can't teach swimming lessons at his property because it's a commercial enterprise. So the question is, if it's been there forever and ever.
This has always been a commercial enterprise. So.
Right, so, I mean, if it's
Oh.
always been a commercial enterprise,
is he grandfather?
I see.
She doesn't like that word.
Yeah.
All right.
I said, if anyone's grandfather, we should be.
If it's pre-existing.
Yeah.
If this were to come to you today, brand new, and you did a site plan review,
Right.
there'd be a lot of things you'd be looking for.
Yes.
We don't know that any of that is there, or it may all be there. We don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel many of the uses that are listed on the Facebook page are pretty extensive for a lake. And I mean, I have never heard a complaint from any of the neighbors.
Mhm.
No one has ever said to me, oh gosh, every weekend, we have a wedding down there. I mean, you say you have a parking lot for 40 cars. Our ordinance says, I think if there's a parking lot for more than, 12 cars, the planning board, it's a site plan review. So,
Well, unless,
There used to be, okay, parking for 70 cars. Okay.
Well,
I
but they-
closed off the waterfront
the
completely.
issue that I would have is that I'm not, how can I say this nicely? I'm not discounting your what you're saying,
Correct.
but is there any documentation of, how long you've been doing this? I mean, in other words, you're saying, well, I'm
I could
doing
fill this building full of people who have been coming there for 50 years.
Okay, but, the question is, when does the grandfathering start? If it starts before the ordinance, I guess it starts before the ordinance is passed and approved, right?
that's how I judge everything.
That's what, so the question I have is, how do you know, again, how do you know, is there any documentation that says, I don't mean people coming in and testifying, I'm saying, is there any documentation that says, here's the plan that we were working under, and we started this in, 1990 or something, and, blah, 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 this is what we were doing, and then this is what we're doing now, so therefore, we are in fact, I hate to use the word grandfather, whatever the word is,
Pre-existing.
pre-existing, so that he's not required to come under the requirements of the current ordinances in effect.
How far back do our records go?
I don't think we have any records of having events up there. I haven't seen it.
How about the
I've
permits?
never heard of this until this year.
You guys got to come see it. People just say it's a hidden gem.
So does.
And a lot of people in Lyman never knew it was there.
My question.
But it's just minute by way, put it on Facebook. That's what,
Yeah.
I guess that's what created this.
I was actually online looking for documentation for Bartlett, and I got Barker's, and,
Barkers.
and there was, I think you conveyed a piece of land to an LLC. It said ice cream and something or other, and I'm thinking, well, what's that? And of course, then I went and looked.
Conveyed a piece of land? Not me.
Okay. I don't know.
But something triggered you and you ran across this.
But do you sell ice cream down there?
No,
you
I do
do
not.
any food?
I don't sell, we don't sell any food. We used to years ago. We'd have hamburgers, hot dogs, candy. That's when I was a kid.
So if you have a wedding, then you, they have a caterer.
I've had, okay, weddings. I've had 3 weddings there. One has been a customer of ours. Her son got married there. And they've been coming for 50 years. And they just wanted, they liked the sing, they wanted to get married there because it's been special in their family. I've had 2 other weddings. They were my daughters. Both my daughters got married
You're
there.
saying in forever?
In forever.
I mean, 3
That I know
weddings,
of.
you've never had any more than 3 weddings?
Correct.
Oh, okay, so you're
And
saying.
this was, the last wedding we had was my middle daughter, which was, I think she'd been married 8 or 9 years before, and my youngest one was married 10 years. So those are the last 2 weddings we've had.
So now we don't have pre-existing wedding venues, right? So that
Right.
needs to come on.
We don't have pre-existing wedding.
In other words, you have not been doing weddings all along, so that's not a pre-existing use that you've.
Yeah,
Sounds like a one-off.
Yeah, it's,
So
yeah,
that,
yeah.
go away. So
Okay, go ahead.
If you want to do more weddings, you want
Correct.
to do more weddings, you got to come and get a permit.
Correct.
Go through the process,
Special event.
special event, and
Okay.
that's covered in the ordinance.
All right.
I think what happened is just flew under the radar for so long, it became status quo. But now that it's being advertised and everything, I think we actually need to get a list of what exactly you do allow there and what you don't allow there.
Yep.
I think we're probably gonna need to do a site walk, we're gonna need a plan, how many porta potties do you have?
Wait a
there?
minute, wait a minute.
We
wait a
have-
minute. Hold the phone, hold the
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
You're trying to impose existing rules on a business or not a business, something that's been going on for years. So.
I think we need to make sure that it is safe to the public.
But
So,
Okay, so we'll speak safe to the public. I just spent $70,000 out there.
Yeah.
Of my dad's money. He's 92 years old. He lives with me now. He wants to leave it as a legacy to him and my mother.
Yeah.
The way it's always been run. We have to run it in the trust, the same way that my parents would have been running it for all these years. All we've done there is take it from all the septics going into a cesspool, okay? We came to the town, we put in a new, from what the engineer said, the largest septic system in the town of Lyman now, okay? Not going into a cistern, $35,000. Instead of into that outhouse cesspool, we put a bathhouse up, which we got permit for, and told us where to put it and everything, which I have 2 showers and 2 bathrooms, public bathrooms. I think we've done nothing but improve the quality of the neighborhood. Everyone now around the pond, my father being 92 years old, they'd have people going out there 2:00 in the morning and just partying. It was a party central, and we've stopped all of that.
I'm not saying anything negative, I'm just trying to, so from here on out, if someone asks what's going on, we can say, oh, well, meets this criteria, and this criteria.
So
I'm trying to shut you down.
so if my granddaughter wanted to get married out there, that would mean I would have to come to town.
No,
That's family.
That's a
Okay.
private
if
event.
you're advertising to have anybody go there and get married, you would need a permit
Okay.
to run a
all right.
wedding venue.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
We
Yep, I
have
have
one
no
of those
problem.
in town already.
Yep.
Down.
You've got
on
several.
the old
Yep.
North Berwick Road.
Yep. Yep.
And we got one on 111.
Yep.
Yep.
As far as your family getting married there, that's
Yeah.
not an issue.
Okay.
Right.
All right. No, that's no problem.
So
But it
Brian,
sounds like,
It's not a,
so what would you think if he was to sit down with you and discuss what is taking place and you could say, okay, this is probably okay, but this you need to deal with? And look at it from that point of view to see if we can just resolve it easily.
maybe record the activities.
Yeah.
you know,
How about- yeah,
Commercial
come-
activities, just,
we actually have a
something
rec
in
department
narrative.
coming tomorrow.
again,
We have a rec department, Hollis Rec's coming tomorrow.
To
No?
do what?
They come for 4 hours.
Mhm.
They've got 50 kids.
Do
Yep.
they know that you don't have a permit, a legal permit from the town to do this, do they? They may
Well,
not even know.
they don't, I didn't know I need a permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've
but,
been here
I mean,
for, you know, I have no idea.
So when
You know,
did zoning
we've been
take
doing this
place?
forever.
Late seventies, was it? Early eighties? When did the zoning finally come in?
go by 79.
I think it was
So
76.
did you have these recs coming out?
They've
before
been coming
79?
since I was this high.
So that's pre-existing, not an issue.
Yeah.
Right? Not an issue.
No, it's kind of,
Pre-existing customer, but,
no,
That's
no,
like
you
saying,
can't-
my dad's been making moonshine since the thirties, but prohibition, he's still been making moonshine.
so,
I think we
so I'm
need to-
just curious.
I don't know.
I wish we would have asked Brad. It's just,
well, we could
So I don't know what kind of insurance you have on your house, if it's commercial insurance or if it's just regular. home
I
insurance.
have the utmost insurance you can have for that.
For
It covers
residents.
everyone who swims in that area. So
But does it, I mean. if
it's
you
a
rent
$2 million
that out to
policy.
somebody
Between
that
you and me,
lives
it's $2
there,
million
and their
is what I have for
children get
coverage.
hurt, is it gonna cover?
It's all covered. Yep.
Larry, how big is, my glasses on there, I was gonna push them back. How big is the lot that we're talking
It's 60 by 100 and something.
Whoa,
about?
it's pretty small.
It's very small. I mean, so you must have, they must bus the children in?
Yep.
Okay, and there must be counselors.
There sure is. And I'd love to have you guys here. It's impressive. These people look like, they run those camps like it's Secret Service. They're all mic'd up.
Yeah.
They've got someone at the restrooms, 4 people in the water. It's well-run, well-disciplined. Whatever they bring in, they take out.
What I feel is what the planning board could best use is just a narrative description of your operations. I know you've been doing it and been operating since '66, but just description of your operations.
Yep.
Something in writing that we have on file.
Yep. We rent 2 cottages.
Mhm.
We have rec departments during the week whenever they want to.
Mhm.
So far, we've had, I think, 6 total this year, 6 days. And we're open to the public
Mhm.
on, we just opened during the week, which we may, if a rec department comes, a pre-schedule,
Right.
we close to the public.
Right.
And if they aren't, then we are open to the public. And we're open on weekends.
So how big is the total property? You got 2 properties there.
The one with the 3 cottages up back is, I can't think. My parents always said it was 2 3/4 acres, but we were going over it.
And that abuts the waterfront property?
Yes, yeah, we own to the center of the road, and then we have the front lot, which is the 60 by whatever it is.
So they abut each other. the 2
Correct,
properties.
yep.
So, and I did notice on the Facebook narrative that.
She's taking that down tonight.
Oh,
Sorry.
No, don't be.
They
It's
talked about new bathrooms, so you have bathroom facilities on site.
Correct.
For 50 children.
Yes.
And that's on the 60 by, that's on the narrow lot?
No. We haven't, the only thing on the narrow lot is 21 to 22 picnic tables, and then I have 4 different barbecue pits.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's
And I
using
do have a
the other
tent.
property
I do have a
to go
tent.
with it at
Huh?
the same time, right?
What's that now?
He's using the second property with the cottages as part of
I
it.
don't allow any driving down front, anything, so that's strictly, you gotta walk through a gate, well, fence in area. So there's no vehicles down there, just to protect it.
But you're still looking at a total of 3 acres on the waterfront that you have these people participating in summer activities.
Correct.
So that's not so bad as 60 by 100. You've got 3 acres of property.
Yeah, I mean, some kids are playing kickball out in the
Yeah.
park, you know,
Mhm.
the other way.
Well, it sounds like there ought to be some way to document what activities are, you consider to be pre-existing.
Mhm.
So someone's gonna have to sit down and write this up.
Yep.
Right.
And that someone is gotta be you,
All
I
right,
think.
Yep, I have
Because
no
you're the
problem. There's
one
only
who
three
knows.
things we do. We
I
rent
mean,
the,
you know
that's
what's
it.
going on there.
Yep.
And I would suggest that you ought to submit something to the code enforcement officer, who can take a look at it, and then, and maybe if she feels necessary, submit it to the planning board that says, okay, here's our pre-existing activities, and describe the location, the scope, and anything else you want to put in there, because basically you're saying, this is what we've been doing all along, okay? You're gonna have to put a boundary around that. And then if you come up with a brilliant idea, which could happen tomorrow, and make all kinds of money doing something else, that's a new activity. That's gonna force you to come back to the process, to the planning board, saying, we want to do a special event, we're gonna do skydiving or something else.
The only way to make a lot of money there is I'd sell it. Okay.
So Brenda, I'm looking at this shoreline zoning ordinance on page 11. It's number C, it says limited commercial district. And I don't know, is that shoreline zoning up there? Is that like where he is that residential or is that? How do we classify that?
Yeah, that's the.
So shoreline district is an overlay, it's not a district.
Right.
So wherever there's a lake in this town, I think there's one area that ends up being residential with a shoreline overlay.
Okay.
So the overlay just, is more limitations.
Right. So this states that limited commercial district includes areas of mixed light commercial residential uses exclusive of streams protection district, which should not be developed as intensively as a general development district. This area, district includes areas of 2 or more contiguous acres in size devoted to a mix of residential and low-intensity businesses and commercial uses. So it's kind of like, I get from this that where there's more than 2 acres, they could do that. Or maybe I'm misinterpreting this. But
And I'm not as nervous about the density. I'm nervous what you're doing within 75 feet of the water.
Right.
Right.
Where it just said, I mean, believe it or not, a tent within 75 feet of the water
Yes.
isn't permissible.
Right. A camp.
I mean, technically, the fire pits aren't permissible.
They've always been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I think what we do is, I think that's a very good compromise, is that we document what's there, and then as things change going forward, then that would fall under the requirements of the.
So if you put in pickleball courts, you need to go for a permit.
Yes.
Right. And you must have current, you said you had new bathrooms put in. You must have a current plumbing, I mean.
Septic system. She's
septic
got the
system
design,
documents,
all-
so
yes,
you have
yeah.
that on record too,
because that would fall under commercial use in this shoreline zoning.
which is also general
The
purpose
definitions
district,
on
right?
page 55, second from bottom.
So that's not permitted?
I mean,
Well, it is permitted.
Right.
but I kind of
Well-
got from this right here.
we've got more area than Kennybunk Pond, that public place there, and it's a lot safer, and it's a
Right.
lot nicer.
I think what you read in 11, this, I think we qualify as a light commercial,
Right,
non-industrial, permissible.
yes, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I gather from it, and then it gives a pretty decent definition on page 55.
But is that permitted as a site plan review?
I didn't,
That's the point that I make.
Well,
right.
And you can do these things in the shoreline, and with the site plan review, which is just making sure that they're being done correctly.
Right. And I think still the rules of the general purpose also, as opposed to residential, just because it's shoreland, it can be designated as residential or general purpose, and those have
Depends on the
rules.
map.
Right, and I believe he would be general purpose up there, I have to look, I'm pretty sure it would be. But the shoreline.
Actually, for commercial, on page 13, 15C, it's commercial, no. Then it says light commercial planning board, I believe that's what it is.
Well, I think we're getting into the weeds a little bit. It seems to me step one would be
To get a list of what he's doing.
to have you take your
Narrative.
time
Yep.
and not forever, but take some time and write down what activities you're doing and describe, just make a description. I don't know of a good format for you, but my thought would be, if you're doing it now and you say that it's pre-existing,
Correct.
then it would be to your advantage to list these activities and describe them. So then the planning board can decide whether any other action should be taken, or at least it would give a frame of reference.
Okay.
And we could, review it, put it in the minutes, et cetera. That's been reviewed, and then we can decide what to do after that. But this way, you say, okay, here's my activities, instead of talking about it, because we can talk all night. And
Yeah,
you
it's
might-
just, yeah.
We're sort of spinning our wheels
Yeah.
here.
Now, Rod, if we go on 13 again, but we go down to number 23. Public and private recreational areas involving minimal structural development. We've got the cottages on the opposite side.
Right.
We've got minimal structural development
Right.
on, and that.
You kind of fits that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
planning board review.
It's probably why I never had to come here.
It's important to identify what you did before 79. That's
Correct.
the
Oh, yeah.
important thing.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
doing the exact same thing we did.
Yeah.
We have done my entire life.
But you need to write it
And
up.
I'll write it up.
Write it up.
And have it all set.
And when you write it up, then you're liable for what you say.
Yeah, I'm good for me. I won't try to slide anything by you.
So if it started in 1931, we should see
Okay,
1931.
because the Fish and Game, they do have authorization to come right onto my property. They're the only ones that can drive down near the water, and they can dump the fish right in there.
And I would ask one other question. Is the tax assessor knowledgeable of what you're doing there?
I would hope so, but I don't,
Just in
I,
case.
just like my own home, I don't invite the tax assessor in.
If they weren't, the Facebook post makes her aware.
Lucky.
You're getting noticed on the Biddeford page because people are looking where to swim.
Well, they've always been coming from Biddeford.
Oh, but it's because Rotary Park was high.
E. coli, yep.
Yeah, so they're going, where can we?
And
swim?
Kennybunk Pond had E. coli last week. That's why the Hollis couldn't go to Kennybunk Pond. They came over to see us.
Yeah.
So
And that's what
we're just being community.
Understand that.
That's why I'm a little worried about 50 children are a lot. So, I mean, it's only ever one room per day.
That's it. Ever.
You never have two, I mean, Biddeford says, oh, we can't spend.
Nope, never.
Wow.
No, it's not, it's too much for their counselors. It's too much. Neither, they all work in tandem, whereas we will not let two groups come at the same time.
Well,
Period.
okay, after you write up this brilliant dissertation on what you're doing.
Yep.
And we review it, it would be possible if the planning board conceivably could put some
Put some
conditions
stipulations on it, yeah.
and
You're not allowed to have
stipulations
two.
and things like
I'm
that.
fine
I
by
don't know
that.
Maybe
I
if
don't-
that's legal or
I
not.
try to work with you.
Yeah, we charge $3 a kid. Aqua charges 27.
Right.
You know, how many small communities can afford, $27 a kid 5 times a summer? We charge $3, and they have the place to themselves. It's private. Every one of these local, and we just did it because my mom's wishes was she wanted every kid in York County to learn how to swim at Barker's Pond, and so we're just carrying on her
Good
wishes. And you know
A
what?
lot of kids.
You have no issues with your neighbors?
No, my neighbors absolutely love us now because we got rid of the dirt bags. Okay,
I've lived in Lyman 36 years and I never heard of it.
come see it. No,
And I guess
I've
you
seen your
know the issue I
beach.
brought to you last week.
I've seen your beaches.
have you?
Yeah.
Have you seen it
I'm
in the
on
last
Wadley Pond,
in the
so
last
I'm
couple
not too
years?
far from where you
Yep.
are.
The last
But
couple
I haven't
years,
been in a while, but
we've
I mean, way
adjusted
back
up.
when we first came in the area, we
It's
did visit your little beach area.
well, come see us again. It's nice.
And do you have walks and things like that?
Do I have what?
Walks and docks and.
Yeah, I do. I actually do. Always have.
So to document that too.
Okay, I do have something new. I do have a trampoline there. Okay, just this year. They weren't trampolines back in 1966, but there is one for the small kids, and they're having a ball.
Anyway, I think it'd be nice to read your documentation.
Yep, I'll write it all down and
That way, I think
Well,
we could go forward on that thing.
I would suggest that you also include the state lodging
Yep,
licensing
yep.
that you have.
I got it in my office.
Plug that
Yep,
in there, yeah.
Yep, you'll see
The
it.
narrative, yeah.
Guess you're gonna write up a document of what you do.
And turning it back into,
Yep.
Yep.
okay,
Give it to Brenda. If we need to speak to you again, we'll put you on for a meeting and we'll let you know.
no problem. Super. And feel free, come out.
Thank you for coming
Take
in
a walk.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I
you very
will
much.
say that I think I called Larry at like 10 in the morning, he was there by 11, so he's been right there for us.
Oh, I got nothing to hide.
Thank you, Mr. Chance.
Okay, thank you very
See ya.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. I'm sorry I didn't give it to you earlier.
That's okay.
You're doing something else now?
You know, we do the election of officers.
Could I say something first before we do this?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you can't resign.
Yeah, no, I'm not resigning, but my term ends the end of June in 24, which is a little less than a year, okay? I've been on the planning board since, I think, '08 or something like that. I know you Rod's been on longer. But anyhow, I think it's time for somebody else to be the vice chair. And because at the end of my term, that's it. Because I'm at my age, you probably know how old I am, so think it's time. I just think it's time. I don't wait till I don't remember your names, things like that, or I'm running for president or something like that. So I just think it's time for that to happen, and I just wanted everybody to know. And I think it'd be nice if someone else were vice chair in case somebody was going to be nominating me for that wonderful position. So I just wanted to say that, and that's what I wanted to say about that subject anyway. So you want to do elections?
Now, were you thinking in 2024 of stepping off the board entirely? or
Yes.
just-
Yes, no, I think it's time. I think it's time. There's people that want to be on the board. Just one other thing I'm mentioning on the board. I'm sorry, I didn't go to that July 3rd select board meeting. I did look at it. I don't know, actually today. And it's actually in the zoning ordinance and also in our bylaws, how we have people come to the board. And so it's not just in the bylaws, it's in the zoning ordinance also.
Whereabouts?
It's under section, it's under site plan reviews, I believe. Strange place. It's not probably where it ought to be, but it talks about organization of the board. It is under 821 on page 26. Let's see here, somewhere in there. Let's see, wait a second. Yes. 8.2.3. It says vacancies on the board. Now, this is in the zoning ordinance. Vacancies on the board shall be filled by advertising for new members. The board shall review all applications and make a recommendation on new members to the Board of Selectmen.
Boom.
So it's in there, but it's also in our, it's covered
Bylaws.
in our bylaws. I did call the town manager today just to inform her of this, because when I looked at the July 3rd select board meeting YouTube, it seemed like people thought there was no process, no mechanism.
No, I remember being interviewed. Cecilia
And
was
then-
interviewed. Bill, you were.
That we were
interviewed.
interviewed by the planning board first.
Right.
By the planning board, they made a recommendation.
Then they
to
made
the
a
select board.
recommendation, right?
Well, they just-
And this is nothing against Kevin at all. It's not his issue. I'm happy to have him here. I'm just saying that there is a process. And the other thing I would suggest is we might want to touch up the bylaws a little bit to reference that, because the bylaws don't specifically reference that right now.
Well, did anyone see the most recent select board meeting on Monday? Because they've adopted a policy that all volunteers for all boards, including our own, first are vetted by the town manager.
Oh.
And that's a quote unquote interim policy, but that is in conflict with 8.2.3 and would require us to drop the process that we have in our bylaws. And I brought it up, brought it to their attention, 2.1.
Maybe I'll go
So-
to the next select board meeting. I just think it's an ordinance, you gotta follow the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Which
what they've
has
done, at least
priority
for
ordinance
us,
of the charter.
circumvents that.
Anyway, I'm not looking to cause an issue, I'm just saying there's a process to follow.
Well, go ahead, you got another year.
No, but, okay, so anyhow, I was gonna ask one other thing or suggest one other thing. Julie made some copies here. Here's something I did on May 1st. And this is. Brenda, if you want one of these or.
This isn't another sanguinity chart, is
No,
it?
and I was gonna suggest that maybe we could, here, pass them down. There's enough there. If you could review it, maybe we could discuss it, and I'd be happy to put it into the
Are you one
bylaws.
short?
Oh,
Phil
short
doesn't
one?
have one.
Here's another one.
Oh.
Here's one.
Okay.
Anyway, I got it, I don't have it memorized, but I got another copy. I got it. Okay, this is, what I did before, and I was doing this and then I stopped. So it was like in May, I was looking at the requirements for notifications. And they're a pain in the neck because they're different things. And so the table there gives the reference and where you're supposed to publish it. And then there's some recommendations. So it's unfortunate that the requirements aren't all the same, but they're not. So I'm just suggesting people take a look at it. If it's what we want to do, then we ought to add it to the bylaws. And on the back page there, where it's in text, I just wrote down recommendations that we could put in the bylaws either as an addendum, or I could touch up the bylaws where it's mentioned in the verbiage and just say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And some of this is all more stringent as I read it than the current zoning ordinance. You understand what I'm saying? It's not less stringent. If anything, it's more stringent because you can't, you should just pick a number. I mean, the state law, some of them say 20 days, some say 14 days, first notice 7 days, blah, 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 but you got to have it in one place. So, and then I'm saying recommended minimum time between the time we vote that the application is complete and the public hearing, site walk 10 days, public hearing 4 weeks. I'm not locked into that totally, but it's just been confusing me all along here because when I read the ordinances in state law, you get different numbers and then you get confused. And then you say, well, let's see now, can we do it next week? This guy's a good guy. We're gonna hurry up and get him done or something. And then the same thing for the notification of abutters. We got dinged in the one case there because even though we followed the ordinance, I think they didn't get the notification. So we said we'd go to 20 days instead of 10 days. So I just say document the whole darn thing, put it as part of the bylaws. That'd be my suggestion. And then we can say, okay, it's in our bylaws. If you don't like it.
It would be nice to have it all in one place.
And that way we can follow a set of rules and we won't inadvertently violate anything. Which
Go
nobody
ahead,
wants.
Brenda.
Can I just make a suggestion? This is wonderful. This is a lot of work, Phil.
Well, no,
The only thing I see that I think that I would use would be subdivisions, because subdivision is entirely different.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes.
that's a good point.
Sometimes you notify direct abutters, and sometimes you notify
Ah.
abutters in 500 feet. I never can remember that. Sometimes it has to be in the
Oh,
newspaper.
God, yes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should look at that.
Like waterfront, you gotta notify them across the lake
Right.
still.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Well, we're not.
I've opened a can of worms here.
Oh, my goodness. I did not.
Yeah, yes, in there.
Tell you what, why don't you send me unofficially your comments on this, and then I will touch this up and we would review it at a future meeting and decide what we want to put in so that we can put it in one spot where we can just look at it and not have to remember that it's supposed to be this, that, and the other thing.
Just a quick question on all of that, Don. I agree. I think you have the right direction with it all. What about the notification of abutters, though? Where was it that we ended up falling short? Because I thought we followed the policies, but
We
the
did,
court.
but somebody else had signed for that, so they claimed they didn't get it.
Yeah, but isn't that addressed in the policy? Doesn't it say the last known
Yes, it is.
person
It
there?
is addressed.
So where did we go wrong?
We didn't.
I didn't think we did. But I'm wondering if there's a better way to delineate that notification
Because it
requirement
went to,
so that it's
There was a
clear.
couple of factors. I believe that that's when there was a hole in the assessment. We didn't have an assessor for a period of time, so it wasn't updated. That
it
was
went
one
to the
thing.
person that owned the house before, but the person that lived there signed for it. And he explicitly stated that he wouldn't open somebody else's mail.
But it also says in your zoning very, very clearly that if someone didn't
Right.
receive the notice, that doesn't change any action you take.
Correct, it does say that.
Go figure. I thought that covered everything.
So did I.
But the judge.
No, that was my only question was, should that be revised wherever that came from to make it clearer? That was all.
I like the 20 days. I think sometimes, because we're so busy, and sometimes we know they gotta get it 10 days and we send it out like 12. And then when the attorney said it'd probably be a better idea to use 20. Sometimes that makes it so you can't meet as quickly as you'd like. It takes another extra meeting. But if it's going to prevent all of that from happening.
I think it makes things run smoother.
Okay, but and once I'll send these to you electronically. I can do that. I'll send it to Julie.
Yeah.
And you can, provide comments or whatever. I was gonna ask something else.
Rod, my name's Rod.
No, I know. It's about, oh, I know. Just a quick question. On shoreline zoning, I don't think we have been writing notices of decision for best practical location. I'm not saying we shouldn't.
I have never heard of writing notices of decision for best practical location, any place I've ever worked. I think when we did one, when I first came on, someone told me it needed to be done, so we did it. That was Johnson. But
Did we do it?
I don't understand why that has to be.
I don't think we should.
recorded myself, but.
Ever since I've been on the board, we've wrote notice of decisions.
Yep.
Shoreline zoning.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, we always do.
I think
We
just
have,
having,
okay.
Because it's a
have
planning
a
board
record.
decision. If the planning
Well,
board
it
is to
is a
make a
good record.
decision.
It's good for the person to have and they can file it, do whatever.
Yeah.
But so what do you put in there? You
Well,
put
just
in,
like recently we said like 41 feet from.
Okay.
Right.
All
And they
right,
have to
okay.
submit a
All right.
plan showing their waterfront and how far,
I'm fine.
And will it
the current and the new, usually there's two plans, what exists.
That it's gotta be started within 1 year and finished within 2, just like.
Yep,
Yes,
just like a building.
yes.
Right.
Regular non,
Mhm.
Right.
Don and I were
We were
questioning
talking
that
about,
earlier.
I was saying I didn't think it was needed, but I guess we could just do that.
We must have
I didn't, I
samples.
don't have the knowledge ready for today because
I'm trying to figure out what was.
trying to get everything just with the 1 week in between.
I do know if I came to the planning board for something on the waterfront and I went through all this process, I would want something written from the
Yeah.
planning board.
So there's no question
So-
about
so
later.
If something happens, I say, hey, I got this.
Right.
Do we have the other nods that are NODs that are hanging? What about,
The hidden spot
the hidden spot?
and
Oh, I know.
Danielle Marquardt.
Mark was waterfront, right?
Okay.
Yes, she is
Waterfront.
waterfront.
Right.
And I think that was all.
And the question I had on the hidden spot was, I looked at the, that was covered in the last meeting, I think, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I don't think went through the 16 standards. Don't we need to do that?
I just thought you weren't
We
voting
went-
at that meeting.
We went
I
through
wasn't
that
there.
on.
I wasn't there
What did we
either.
go through that on? We went through the 16 standards on something.
The hidden spot?
I don't
I
know.
don't
That was, the
Yeah.
hidden spot was a special meeting you had
Yeah, we
last
went
Wednesday.
through, we went through that, didn't we?
just took the full.
Public hearing.
But we weren't.
Because a lot of things are not applicable because
Listen, maybe I just tuned it out.
Well, I thought we
I
went
thought we
through the
did, 'cause-
16 for something.
I thought we went through 16.
Okay,
standards
I'm not being critical. I'm just saying
Right.
if it didn't happen, then it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to happen right now, but I'm saying it should happen and it should be documented as part of the NOD, which could be done at the next meeting. Maybe we could check and see if that's
I'll
happened
go
or not.
back and
Yeah, the
check.
record,
I just
yeah.
don't remember it.
Okay, again, I'm not trying to raise issue. I'm just saying if we didn't do it, we should do it because we're gonna have to write an NOD that references each standard.
I
Like we
just want
normally
to
do.
go out with a bang and start.
didn't we do the 16 standards before we did the site walk?
No,
Well,
No, that comes
But-
afterwards.
Well, we,
the
The
checklist
checklist
almost
on the
mirrors the
application.
16 standards.
Yeah,
right.
maybe that's what I'm.
Yeah.
Don't they
I guess
need
I
like a
would, yeah.
pre-application to make sure that they have their
Yeah.
Right.
sewer system
Mhm.
I
documentation,
thought
sewer
we did do
system,
the
the
16
deed?
standards, I could be wrong. too.
Anyhow, if we didn't do them, I would just suggest at the next meeting, we just do it.
I know
Go
we, I
through
know
and
we've done.
redo it and just write the NOD and be done with it, just so it's on the record.
I'll try
That's
to
all.
find if I have
I'm not trying to hold anything up, I'm just saying.
some previous.
All right, that's it.
cases.
I've raised enough issues, I'm sorry to say. Happy to be of service.
Gonna bury you with the worms with Brenda.
So now that Dawn's turned apart, I want to nominate him.
No, no. I like, are we ready to nominate officers now?
I don't know, you
Are
got
we?
Sure.
Okay, I'm good.
I'm gonna make a nomination. Okay, you make a nomination.
I nominate Ron to continue as chair.
second.
And again, if anybody else wants to be chairman, I'm not opposed to it, but I'll do it. So,
Doing great.
got a
You're very
nomination,
lucky.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I nominate Joe Wagner for vice chair.
I'll second that.
If nominated, I will not run.
You will.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. We have any discussion. All in favor of Joe Wagner for vice chairman?
I
Aye.
That'll be
Thank
a
you.
raise too, Joe.
nominate Cecile for secretary.
Second.
No, you can't.
I'm
Oh,
not
yes, you
voting yet.
can.
Well, wait,
I am
she's
Yes.
an
not voting
alternate
yet.
member.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Right here. Got it right here.
But my won't
Yep.
have a legal my signature will not be legal on notices of decision.
What?
You can for secretary.
Yes, indeed.
Where are you at, Joe?
3-1. The officers of the board shall consist of chair, vice chair, secretary, chair. The chair and vice chair are to be full members. A-OK.
Vice chair.
And this is right here.
Okay.
No wonder you're vice
Well-
chair.
I mean,
Well, I tell you, I missed this.
you have to
Thank you.
vote that in though.
So, yeah. Do we have the nominate?
I nominated, with, Dawn seconded.
Any
We've had
discussion? All in favor, Cecile?
Aye.
Does that mean she takes over the meeting minutes?
Good luck.
When I took this position, that was one of the things I was concerned about, because chewing gum and
It's
and
not-
writing at the
it's
same
more work.
time are really difficult these days, so
And Julie does a nice job.
she
It's
does
It's
a
a lot
great.
more work than it looks like.
And if the,
Mhm.
Imagine doing that for
but I will sign documents.
So did everybody get to read the July 12th, 2023 planning board special meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any discussion?
I was absent, so I'm not voting on that one.
You're voting on that one?
Yeah, well, I can't vote anyway.
There's
Although,
public hearing
does-
and meeting minutes.
Yes.
If the alternate, if, I have a question. If you are an alternate and you are voted in as a voting member at a meeting because someone is absent.
Right.
At subsequent meetings, when you're voting on the minutes, do you vote? Since you are not a legal member, you're voting member at that meeting unless you're sworn in, I mean, unless, do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yes,
Yeah, I
makes
can't-
perfect sense.
Mhm.
I can criticize make comments on the minutes, even though I was part of that voting body
Right.
when they were written up. But
But you still
Doesn't
sign.
that go along though with the alternate? If you're hearing on a subject and you're the alternate as a voting member, if that comes up at other meetings, even though you're an alternate, you still are involved with the vote on.
you're
that.
involved, but you can't vote because
You have to, because you're required to, because you
You are
made the
required
initial
to?
vote.
The MMA manual specifically says that, and I mean, there's a lot of recording,
Mhm.
usually, but, yeah, once you vote on it once, you proceed to vote on that particular, which makes sense.
So does that change the balance of the planning board? For the alternate would become another voting member. Is that an additional voting member or do you throw someone else off?
No, you,
I think.
No,
the
you're gonna
person
have
you
one that
replace-
wasn't there, that's why the alternate was there.
Oh, okay.
Right.
the
So
person-
therefore,
the person
that
not
person
in
would
there.
So if I
There we
weren't
go.
at the meeting,
There we go.
you were voted in, I wouldn't vote.
You wouldn't vote, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Makes sense.
That's-
I believe that's how it would work.
Yeah.
I make a motion
We'll
that
find
we
out.
I know, yeah.
accept the special meet,
Put this
yeah,
up.
July 12th,
correct.
planning board special meeting minutes.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor of accepting the special meeting minutes?
Aye.
Not voting.
Did I give you the June ones that had to be revised? Or did I
Not
just give you
just
I
last.
got July 12th.
Yeah, I took them on my file there.
Yeah, remember they were going to be voted again because you had there were some changes that you weren't able to get in. And you
Well,
asked
we want
if
to
they were
vote on
gonna
the
vote.
July 12th regular meeting minutes?
Okay, that's what we just did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Now we're doing the July 12th public hearing board meeting minutes.
that's what I was gonna vote on.
Did everybody get to read them? Well, I'll make a motion that we accept them as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the July 12th, 2023
Aye.
public hearing board meeting minutes?
Aye.
Yeah, I'm not voting because I wasn't here.
Right. Just
Yeah.
I'll give those others for the next.
pending.
Yeah. This is what date? This is July 12th. No, I was not here.
I think Kevin was here.
Okay, that's.
That's the original.
That's one of the.
It wasn't too long.
Send out.
We have a mail here for local planning boards and boards of appeal. Anyone would like to attend?
What is that? Oh, that's, isn't that the one that's up in Augusta or something? What
I
is it?
believe so.
Oh,
I think it's in September or October.
yeah, it's in Augusta.
Yeah, it is.
I would just say if you haven't gone, it's,
10/12.
it's only a, it's a, what do you call it? It's just like a 4-hour kind of a thing. It's worth going to.
Yeah, it
If
is
you want to go to it.
I've been to a couple.
So I'm not saying that particular one, but they rotate them around. The last, I went to one up in Portland. That was much more convenient.
I did the June one.
Oh, Zoom, yeah.
Oh, do they have the Zoom version now since COVID probably?
Sometimes.
Not always, no.
Cecile and I think we both went together in South Portland.
Yes, South Portland, and then I went again, I think in Scarborough. Around the,
One time we went, we froze to death. I was over there.
If you want to grab a
Early
copy of that.
This
that
There was no
is-
heat.
Think
It was
about
over,
it.
it was in Biddeford.
You learn a lot.
Learn how to be a.
Hey, do we have anything else we want to discuss tonight? Brenda?
I'm sorry.
no,
Well, sometimes I bring things to you because I don't know how to handle, how you want me to handle things. If, when you do a site plan review and you approve it with conditions, and it says that, some of those conditions say a year, but the whole site plan review, it says it's not substantially, started and completed in 2 years, it's,
Null and void.
it's null and void.
Oh,
So
boy.
we do have one
Oh, gosh.
that's null and void like tomorrow.
Hmm.
So how, I wrote a letter and said, we need to meet so that I can see what's getting done. Do they come back to the board?
What they should do is come back and tell us the reason why
Yeah.
they haven't started. I mean, it could be because of COVID.
Right.
And most of these are because of COVID. It's hard to get people to work for you and But again, they
Yeah.
should come back and discuss it with us like the other people
Yeah,
did.
granted a couple of extensions recently.
Right, we could grant an extension.
We did that for on the.
But if they do this and then go a year without coming back, it's a different story. I mean,
There were some conditions that said they had to be done within a year. If those aren't done, I assume that's a game.
Yeah, because they,
I guess we should look at it
unless
to
there's
see.
extenuating circumstances
Yeah.
that cause them not to be able to do X.
So if they don't contact me and I can schedule them to come before the board, then what happens? Do I then do a stop work order or?
Yeah.
Wow.
If there's
I
any
I
work
know
being
this isn't
done.
your job, but a courtesy call to them might be good. I mean,
No, I don't.
it's just, I know if that was me on the other side, a courtesy call would be greatly appreciated and
That's a good point. I really do.
Because their permit would be null and void, right? The permit that you, any
well,
permits issued, like building permits that were issued,
they're good for
that, no-
X
nothing,
amount of time.
nothing even, because that would be, show that there was an intent to start.
Yeah.
And, no, okay,
And it's hard saying what happened when they didn't start it, so.
right, okay.
Yeah, that's really their issue in that sense.
I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, I would be.
And this way here, if they don't come forward and want to do anything, they were notified and they most definitely would understand.
I think in this situation, because it wasn't on the agenda and the property owner wasn't notified, there are other activities going on instead of what you approved. And that's what I'm concerned.
No,
Been bored.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Another issue that came up, was thinking that when we designated alternate, I think what we came up with is actually flawed.
Oh, God.
Because that, we got a new XYZ, and we say, oh, Kevin is the appointed alternate. For whatever reason, Kevin misses a number of meetings, misses the site walk, whatever. In the meantime, Bill has shown up to everything. Well, when it comes time to vote, if one of the permanents, wait a minute, Kevin's permanent, my
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the new guy. Sorry, welcome.
Okay, well, we'll get in your draft.
Yeah, so I would say that instead of alternating, we wait it if one of the permanent members isn't there, we look and go, okay, who as the alternate has been here the most and is most knowledgeable
For
on
this,
it
for this project.
for this project? And I think would all be fair enough to go, geez, I haven't, don't know enough about it, or hey, I'm right on top of this. So I think we vote for the alternate when the time comes.
We don't have any of that in the bylaws anyway, so it doesn't make any difference.
No, it was just a planning board decision we
Oh.
had made,
Oh, okay.
and I wanted,
Alternating.
Yeah.
Meetings.
That's pretty subjective. We've been here almost a
Yeah.
week.
Well, it could also be a situation where, given our agendas, that one alternate may be more versed in one item on the agenda as opposed to the other who might be more versed in, I don't know.
So you're talking
Seems a
like the
little-
subject matter,
Yeah.
the subject matter that we're deciding,
Yeah.
one,
Yeah, so
one member
arbitrarily
may have more
just saying
experience
eeny,
with that.
meeny, miny, and mo, I think we could be missing out on not being fair to the members.
But on the alternate side of that, the alternates get to speak through the meetings.
Almost
and
definitely.
Participate, so does it really make a
Doesn't
difference?
matter, yeah.
Does it really make a
It
difference?
only comes in the case of the voting.
No, but if you were out for like 3 meetings from being sick and we needed an alternate at the beginning of it, I mean, I think that alternate that followed it through should stay on it.
Yeah,
That
that
sounds
makes
good.
sense, and brought me back and forth.
A lot of ways you can deal with it. You're right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I'm just, there's 6 of one, half a dozen.
I'm
of the
not
other.
gonna be sitting here saying it's my turn, so don't worry. I'm gonna participate the way I do and
Yeah.
for what it's worth, you know?
It's good.
Well, I hate to ask this, but is there anything else?
I hope.
I'm sorry, but I do believe we had the mission statement along with the bylaws on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, we did.
Just maybe I'll suggest a little alteration to the mission statement. I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
It's essentially the same thing, but the first
Yeah, you're right.
paragraph is a little
You're
bit
right. We
bumpy.
should.
And as for the bylaws, hold off on until Don circulates his suggestions. But
You got some good ones.
well, no, just because of the action taken by the select board on Monday brings into question two portions of our Article 2. But I was unaware of how it's supported by the ordinance and leave it as is. So
When all
Yes,
else fails,
that's the
read the
law.
ordinance.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which is,
which
which
I
should be
don't
at
do
the
all the
top.
time. I'm trying to.
that I just want to throw that out.
Oh. And could I also suggest to Julie, can you notify the select board of the election of the officers? If you would, please.
Highlighted it in yellow.
I mean, I think we're supposed to tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's
Who's in charge? Ron.
I'm barely in charge of myself.
Cecile will take notes on that.
Well, if there's nothing else, I will make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All who want to stay?
Wait a minute, you didn't have a majority,
Agenda
did
for the
you?
next meeting.
Did you?
Well, usually Julie sets the agenda and sets it out to us.
Because I was gonna suggest that we start considering an ADU zoning ordinance because
But we don't make the ordinances anymore. Ordinance review.
Review does.
Are
We can still
off the air
suggest
yet?
it.
it's strongly suggested.
I really,
Oh, I think we need to do something too.
Well,
Where was I saw it?
it's,
Now, I know